A pleasant good morning to you. It is Wednesday, February the 16th. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. Now, the curfew has been lifted, but up to yesterday, stakeholders in the entertainment industry were still reportedly seeking clarity about how they could operate. Some of that clarity was provided at the level, as far as CBC understands, at the level of the Prime Minister, not the acting Prime Minister, that is Santi Bradshaw. Initially, they were still being told, the entertainment stakeholders, that they would only be allowed to operate up to 12 midnight, but that has been changed to 3 in the morning. But we are hearing about some other issues that still need to be clarified and rectified. That's why joining us live this morning to delve into some of these problems that the entertainment industry is still seeing at present. We have Orlando Newton. He's the Chief Executive Officer of TicketPal, and he's also the Operations Manager for Halo Ultra Lounge. Orlando, always great to have you on the Morning Report.
Good morning, Shane. How are you doing this morning, sir?
We're good, but we're trying to find out what exactly is happening that is causing such frustration for those in the entertainment industry, especially those holding events. Talk to us about yesterday first, because you were seeking some clarity about still having to close at 12 midnight. I understand that has been changed since then to 3 in the morning. Tell us what happened there.
This has been an ongoing issue between the entertainment industry and getting information from the policymakers. Over every time the curfew change, it seems to be a lifetime in which we do get information. This information usually takes about 2 or 3 days for us to understand what is really happening. And because of the fluency of our industry, it continued to wreak havoc on our industry. Yes, this situation came about, and it took a little while for us to actually get any information out. And then when the information was given, it was just put out there. It was no formal discussion pertaining to it. We did reach out to both the NCF and the COVID unit after receiving much calls from our fellow members in the industry, executive producers of events, that there is still no clarity on how we can operate. There's still not even a full clarity, because to finish events at 3 o'clock, where we have colleagues, for example, on the MV, that have cruises between the hours of 4 and 7 in the morning, especially on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. There's an issue that we still need a little more clarity on, because every curfew have been removed, and our understanding, stand corrected, was that the entertainment industry closure of events was subject to the protocol. So that was the issue that we were, yes, there. Since then, we have been told, we have received notice that it is now 3 a.m. But we're still waiting to see if that will be changed to a 24-hour operation. We already know that we are subject to the permits for noise, which is issued by the police, which depends on the areas that of operation, which is quite normal.
And in terms of seeking permission from police and other entities, I know stakeholders have been for some time calling for a one-stop shop where you can get these noise permits, alcohol licenses, etc. What is happening there?
We have no knowledge of what's going on. We're told from our last meeting with the Prime Minister, the Honourable Prime Minister Mia Motley, that this was something that was going to be solved at the government level. We are still awaiting word on that. It's very difficult, even with in this present pandemic, to be moving around from office to office to get verification on our permissions for events. We have to go to the police station, we have to go to the courthouse to get alcohol permits, which now is even in limbo, because right now people in the industry have no idea where to go to get the alcohol permits. We were told it was supposed to be Ministry of Commerce. Then we were told it was back to the courthouse, and that is still something that is up in the air for much of us, not only in our industry, but for other new bar owners that are on the marketplace. But the one-stop shop was something that was on the table for quite a long time. It is still have not been formatted as far as we know, or we have not been engaged actively in the process of what is going to be happening, and that is not the issue that we're having. We think that as stakeholders in the industry, we need to be notified, consulted with, as we are the major part of the industry. We do this on an everyday basis, and we will understand much better what is needed on our side. To mandate something and then have the issues of having to come back and solve it again can be solved quite quickly. And we're still trying to figure out why it's taking so long for us to have that one-stop shop that was promised. On top of that, we're also facing the industry with a number of different issues. One being the only industry right now that, as far as we know, that both our employees and the artists in our industry must be tested prior to going into an event, a vaccinated event, where our patrons are basically asked to be vaccinated or tested. So we think that is an additional cost at this present moment that is being burdened once again on the entertainment industry, and we ask for that to be reviewed right away. Another thing that we have been touching on is that with the news of the move of the curfew, we also got news that one of our comrades in the industry, who we're very excited with, is going to be sailing once again. And we're very excited about that. He'll be able to sail at 100% capacity, and they also move the casting over from a 60 to and 80%. But still, we have not been given any word on our venues that have been considered safe venues. Our capacity levels have not changed, and thanks to the opening of the entertainment industry, most of us have been working at break-even points just to maintain the industry, which is quite vital to the economic development of Barbados. What we're asking for is to be part of the post-COVID recovery plan, which is necessary for our country. We are tied to the tourism industry. We were not able to take advantage of the T20 games, but we're also hoping to also take advantage of the test series to be able to create activity that will also create financial benefits for not only us as the entertainment industry, but also the larger economy. We already know that 90.
Yeah, I was about to say there's no question of the importance of the entertainment industry to the success of Barbados's economy as a whole, and a part of that entertainment industry, a big part of it, is Cropover. I'm guessing by what you're saying to me in terms of the lag in information that you've not heard anything yet about plans for a Cropover 2022.
This is a constant issue that I have been speaking about and our colleagues have been speaking about over the last 3 to 4 months. We're receiving calls on a daily basis from people who wanted to know if to buy their airline tickets to fly into Barbados, if there's going to be a Cropover. I just got a call yesterday from a young lady told me she got a choice, Barbados or St. Lucia. And I'm quite concerned about that. People are actually considering if Barbados will have a Cropover, and they're considering going to other islands. And this is something that need to be addressed urgently. I heard yesterday from one of the ministers within the Prime Minister's office that call is the Prime Minister's call, and we think that it is really something that needs to be looked at urgently. Why? Because once again, we know the woes that have been happening around the world in shipping, and this could also impact our industry, where we do shipping stuff to be able to do the events. Our suppliers, if it's alcohol suppliers, cups, spoons, whatever is needed to facilitate the industry, must be shipped in. As you know, that we import almost everything that we need on this island. So what we're saying basically is that if it's giving them problems at this present moment to even get things in for at Christmas time, you can imagine what is going to be the impact. And with the lower bookings based on the BHTA during the summer season, we're just saying that we're here to help. Give us the opportunity to help, and we are here to help Barbados. We believe that we want a safe Barbados, but we also want to be able to impact Barbados at at the economical level, which is very important for us to get our country back and running. What we're saying,
Yes.
I'm going to repeat it once again, we want to be part of the post-COVID recovery of Barbados, and we are the executive producers of events. We're the executive producers of every single entity within the entertainment and hospitality industry. So we are asking once again for a speedy response. We can't, the longer we wait, the less excellence that would happen coming out of the industry. We're already suffering staff shortages, which is impacting the entire island at this present moment, where we are not even sure that we're going to be able to get back the quality of workers that was in place prior to the pandemic, because it's very hard to explain to a person why does she return to an industry that have been burdened and have continued to be burdened at this present time. So what we're
Understood.
saying right now is that a safe Barbados is what we want. We understand that the percentages around the world is changing because we have seen the rest of the world changing, and we believe that it's about time that we actually understand that this is something that we are going to have to live with, and how we're going to live with it. We think in the industry that we have been preparing with this for the last 2 years, and we have shown in step one that we are ready and able and capable, and we are ready to move into step 2 and 3. But we must know what is step 4, which is the Cropover season, the festival season, and if it is going to happen, because it is going to impact the quality of what we are able to produce to allow the tourists in order to return to Barbados during this delicate summer
Yeah.
season.
Orlando, always good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me here live on the Morning Report to talk about these issues being faced by the entertainment industry. We really hope for all involved that we get them resolved. You be good until next time
Thank
we
you very
chat.
much. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Orlando Newton, he is the CEO of Ticket Pal and also the operations manager for Halo Ultra Lounge. We'll take a break here and come back with those COVID-19 updates. COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 3 more Barbadians, 2 of them, a 75-year-old unvaccinated man and an 84-year-old fully vaccinated man, died on Monday. Additionally, a 67-year-old woman succumbed to the virus yesterday. She was unvaccinated. They all passed away while at the Harrison Point isolation facility. The number of deaths recorded here in Barbados from COVID-19 has now reached 303. Meanwhile, the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory recorded 415 new COVID-19 cases on Monday from 1,844 tests conducted. The positives consisted of 64 youngsters under the age of 18. There were 138 people in isolation facilities, while 5,077 were in home isolation. Under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of fully vaccinated individuals now stands at 148,474. Let's go to Guyana now. We are hearing that country will consider the removal of additional COVID-19 measures if the immunization target is achieved. This assurance is coming from the health minister there, Dr. Frank Anthony.
In an effort to return to some level of normalcy, government may soon consider the removal of other COVID-19 measures. On Friday last, a decision was taken to lift the national curfew, a first step in easing the COVID restrictions. However, Minister Anthony says any further rollback will depend solely on vaccination rates.
As we increase the amount of vaccination, getting people boosted and so forth, then we probably would be able to consider removing some of the other public health measures, but we are not there as yet.
In the meantime, Anthony is encouraging the public to continue following the current measures in place.
So lifting curfew does not mean that the other public health measures are lifted. So you have to do mask wearing, you have to still keep social distancing, you have to still sanitize. These are very important measures if we are going to reduce the spread.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry, in collaboration with the Education Ministry, will soon be rolling out a special vaccination program for the 12 to 17 age cohort. The aim is to boost vaccination numbers among this age category, which is still low.
The Cayman Islands will receive 2,000 doses of the pediatric formulation of the Pfizer vaccine this week. The territory's governor has thanked the United Kingdom. CIG TV reports.
This week it's coming in on British Airways. His Excellency says, quote, "The UK heard our pleas for Cayman to be allowed to move ahead with vaccinating our 5 to 11-year-olds as quickly as we could. The UK has given us permission to proceed in advance of this wider rollout in the UK. Now, the Health Services Authority will be issuing a vaccination schedule for this age group shortly," end quote. His Excellency is also encouraging persons to get the booster shot, saying, "We know from irrefutable evidence that the booster provides essential protection as immunity wanes over time after 2 doses." Now, meantime, we encourage parents and guardians to listen out for information on the rollout of the vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds.
6:18, let's go over to Pearson now to hear what he has coming up on today's edition of Morning Barbados. I'm sure it's something very exciting. Pearson?
As always, thank you, Shane. And indeed, when you join me at 6:30, reaching out to you in 2022. That's the theme of the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, as we continue to delve into that area to find out what else is offered there and how you can be a part of it today. We'll hear more about the performing arts. We'll also today be starting a new series called Aging and Thriving in BIM. That's because our population is aging, so we'll talk a little bit more about that with our gerontologist. And I'm hoping that you have your book handy because we're at chapter 16, Coaching for Performance. It's a big managerial task and responsibility, and our coach will join us as we walk through that chapter as well. Just a little bit of what you'll experience when you join me at 6:30 for Morning Barbados. It's back to you, Shane.
Thank you, Pearson. Face-to-face classes expected to return on Monday, but not for all students. You'll hear more details coming up right here on the Morning Report. It's official. Face-to-face classes will resume in schools across Barbados come Monday. Education Minister Cayman Islands made the announcement during a media briefing last evening after another week of intense talks with education stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and the unions. In explaining the rationale for the decision, the Education Minister said the ministry is mindful some students will be taking external exams, including CSEC and CAPE, and their counterparts in the region have already resumed face-to-face school. She said some students must also get going on subjects which require practical work submissions to demonstrate their competence.
They will be competing with peers from around the world who will be seeking to land spots in universities and colleges and special schools and jobs for the future. They must be ready. And can we afford to hold them back any longer than the years they have already lost in learning gains through no fault of their own or ours? We have to rebalance our priorities, Barbados, now, if this country is to survive and thrive. For these reasons, among others, the ministry has determined that schools will reopen in a phased manner starting February 21st.
Now, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw, says Phase 1 will target students identified as most vulnerable. Those will include those in nursery, reception, infants A and infants B, Class 4 students, 1st, 4th, 5th, and 6th formers, and children with special needs. In Phase 2 will be Classes 1, 2, and 3, and 2nd and 3rd forms. The ministry will allow for some flexibility in the initial stages, so as long as students have at least 5 days of face-to-face school within a 2-week period, they will be attending those face-to-face classes. Having heard the concerns of teachers' unions in this regard, the teachers worried about a return face-to-face classes have been given additional time, and that's about a week, to adjust to the new situation. As for the safety requirements, Dr. Archer Bradshaw says students should be 3 feet apart at all times and must wear masks, although mask breaks will be allowed. Sanitization stations are also required, and random testing will be conducted for students and staff from the nursery to secondary levels.
The random testing will not occur during the first week or the second week. We are awaiting the swabs, and as soon as we receive the swabs and training has taken place, the random testing will occur. For students, we require parental consent, and the parental consent forms will be made available.
And the Chief Medical Officer, the Most Honorable Dr. Kenneth George, says transmission in schools is an unlikely event.
Once the protocols are adhered to, there shall be no mass spread of COVID, or Omicron for that matter, in schools. Fortunately, we have gotten support not only from PAHO in our decision making, WHO in our decision making, UNICEF in our decision making, but also we managed to get the perspective of a large group of pediatricians in Barbados who are highly supportive of this approach.
Let's go to some news further afield. Police in Honduras have detained the former president Juan Orlando Hernandez after a judge ordered his arrest and an extradition request from the United States on accusations of drug trafficking.
Security forces were called in on Monday night to surround the wealthy neighborhood where the former president of Honduras lives. Less than 3 weeks ago, Juan Orlando Hernandez was in charge of the country. Now the U.S. is calling for his arrest and extradition. Prosecutors in New York have repeatedly accused the former president of involvement in drug trafficking and alleging his political rise was fueled by drug profits.
We've been calling for his arrest since 2015, when we denounced that the former president was a drug trafficker, corrupt and associated with criminals.
Hernandez was president of Honduras for 8 years. U.S. prosecutors have accused him of receiving millions of dollars in exchange for protecting drug shipments through the country. The money was reportedly also used to bribe politicians and help his political career. The former president has repeatedly denied the allegations. In an audio recording on Tuesday, he said he's willing to voluntarily turn himself in.
I'm ready to collaborate and voluntarily go to the authorities the moment the Supreme Court judge is assigned to this case so that I can face the situation and defend myself accordingly.
Hernandez's legal team argues it will take its direction from the Supreme Court of Honduras and not from foreign countries.
It's up to the executive power of the nation. We must wait for an independent body of the state to make the corresponding decisions.
Hernandez left office on January 27th when the new president, Xiomara Castro, was sworn in. On that same day, he became Honduras's representative to the Central American Parliament, which oversees political and commercial treaties across the region. And as a member of that group, his lawyers argue the former president has immunity from criminal prosecution.
Sporting news now. The West Indies and India are set to meet in the first of 3 T20 internationals in Kolkata today. The regional players are coming off a crushing 3-0 defeat to India in the one-day international series. The West Indies captain Kieron Pollard admits the ODIs did not go as planned, but he believes the players would have gained some valuable experience.
Guys who would not have been here before would have gotten experience, playing in Indian conditions. Coming up a well-drilled, Indian team, and getting to understand, what is needed, on a consistent basis, say for instance in international cricket. So, for us, again, it's about improving all the time.
Play is set for 10 a.m. Barbados time. Live coverage is expected to be on MCTV's Sports Match Channel 310. Time now for a look at the weather. Okay, we apologize at this time for the absence of weather. And that's it for the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning.
And indeed, a very good morning to welcome everyone today to Wednesday, February the 16th, 2022. I am Pearson Bowen, welcoming all of you everywhere, every day. Thank you so much for joining us. Lest I forget, let me also remind you that today on radio, the continued coverage of that regional 4-day game, Barbados Pride versus the Jamaica Scorpions. Jamaica Scorpions still at the crease, and Barbados Pride is really fighting strong. So listen for coverage on 94.7, the best 24/7, from 9:45 this morning and for every day throughout the rest of the game, which wraps up on the 18th of February. So stand by for that opportunity there on radio. Now today, we'll continue looking at our journey through Manager's First Aid Kit. We're looking at coaching for performance. It's a big chapter, and it's a good chapter for anyone in supervisory positions or in management to be able to master. And so our master trainer, the author of the book, Manager's First Aid Kit, Joan Underwood, will join us as we journey through that chapter as well. So look out for that. That's going to be very, very interesting. We'll meet today the recipient of the HR Award in Pittsburgh, the Barbadian living there who is doing amazing things in that city. She will join us today as she has promised. We'll start a new series called Aging and Thriving in BIM. Why? Because we want to look at the challenges and joys of our aging population right here in the island. And today we want to look specifically at communicating with our older people. So look out for that too. Our obstetrician will join us as well. We'll hear a little bit more about how St. Lucie is marking its Parish Month. And we'll get started now by heading straight into the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts at the University of the West Indies CAFL campus under their theme, Reaching Out to You in 2022. Joining us now to share more about the programs there and the excitement within the Department of Creative and Performing Arts is Andrew Millington, who is the head of that department. Mr. Millington, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Pearson.
Thank you for you're very welcome. You're very welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning. Now, yours must be, I suppose, because everything in there every day is people just doing the best they can in performing arts. Let's talk a little bit about what you offer in that Department of Creative and Performing Arts. Well, we'll try to get his video sorted out very quickly. I hope he stands still. Remember, the theme is Reaching Out today. There will be some tasters for all of us to enjoy online. And hopefully by the end of our exchange, we'll share with you when and how you can be a part of it. Mr. Millington, so talk to us a little bit about what's offered in the Department of Creative and Performing Arts.
Creative and Performing Arts. So there are 4 distinct areas in the undergraduate. 4 programs. There's the Music with Education on the music area, and we're developing an actual full music program. There's a dance program which offers a BFA, which is relatively, we made some adjustments to ensure that it's globally competitive. We have a film program, and we're developing a BFA, which hopefully we'll be able to offer next year, as well as a theater program. So you see, under the creative arts, we have a number of disciplines, and in some cases, students actually combine them. At the graduate level, we talk more about the creative industries. You can either focus on arts education or, interestingly, arts entrepreneurship. And that second track in the master's program is what is becoming very exciting, because with advancing technology, with different ways of marketing and audience research and what have you, it's opened up a whole new world of how we reach that audience, social media, what have you.
And of course, this program is open, these programs are open to all ages. It's not just simply for the very young or for the more seasoned practitioner. How do you see, how have Barbadians really been responding to the offerings that fall under your department?
I get some wonderful questions day by day, because I think we are at a point where we are very curious about what a creative training can bring not only an individual in terms of development of the self, but what is the future? We've been talking about a metaverse. It seems a long way off, but it's a lot closer. And what that means is that we all have to become media literate. We all have to recognize that at some point we're going to come in contact with images, and we have to know how to analyze them, how to think about them. In some cases, not everyone, you'll have to produce some sort of image, or you have to have knowledge, whatever part of the work environment. Job be asking persons, are you media literate? Are you able to contribute to organizing of marketing? It's very critical in the creative industries.
And if I'm not, then these programs are not for me?
Oh, absolutely, they are for you. Let me throw one out. You are a broadcaster. You are a talented announcer. You clearly think about what you do. But as we move into a new age, you must ask yourself clearly, are we going to be doing interviews the same way as we did 10 years ago? 2 years ago, I had to become au fait with the technology to ensure that I could log in and have a conversation with you. Well, your skills are going to advance, and you're going to have to think of more innovative ways and more innovative forms of doing interviews. And that's where we step in. We help you think about the diverse ways of creating content, whether it is in music, whether it is theater, what have you. The skills are there to build on. That's why we say we are we're intersectional in the sense, in that any area can benefit from art. So you don't have to necessarily major in the area, you can do a minor, and that can advance your skill set.
You know, life is a continuum as much as we evolve through life as we go as well. So critical thinking is going to be a part of it. But being one's best self is also going to be important. And what I like about what's being offered in the faculty is, you know, you're asked, as you've just said, asking me to think. Don't just exist. Think of why you exist and what else you can bring, what other values you can bring to the time that you occupy. And so it's interesting that so many people are now turning themselves on to what's being offered there, and that redounds to the benefit of a wider society where we have some critical thinkers analyzing and looking at situations and developing ways of doing things better for the greater benefit of humanity. And that's what you guys offer.
Absolutely. The university is involved in producing knowledge. For a long time, people thought the word academic meant only you studied by a book, you studied different theories, and you went out and you spout all these theories, and that was the end of that. Well, it's more than that. It's applying those theories, thinking about actual scenarios and situations, and how you can bring some new way of seeing, new way of doing. If you think about a Republic Barbados right now, the question is, how do we distinguish ourselves? How do we bring that unique Barbadianness into the forefront of the minds of all persons across the globe? And we have to be conscious. We are thinking now about what is it we create, not that word. Create means whatever area we're doing, whether it's building a house or whether it's making a film. The essence of it is there, the stimulus is there, and the uniqueness of a Caribbean identity, which it is within us. We discover, you talked about the self and discovering the self, and are able then to bring this idea of what this republic is about. And I only say that because we get calls from persons who are saying, yeah, you became a republic. What does this mean? Well, it means that Barbados is entering in a new space. And what's going to help take us there is the artistic expression, which is an expression of culture. That is going to be, I think, a major part of who we are, and why training and being conscious now of learning artistic practice is critical for our students.
Being our best selves as well, and that's where the training and the theories converge. And so for those listening, I don't want them to think, oh my gosh, I have to spend so many hours in a classroom. That's all I'm going to be doing. I'm thinking that the creative and performing arts require me to do more than just read the text, but also to practice the text. So let's look at some of the programs and the opportunities that are availing themselves to people this morning who want to be a part of the faculty, to let them know it's not all just chalk and talk, but you can actually do some walking of the walk and do some acting.
Well, interestingly enough, yesterday I had to begin to research for a photography class who wanted to go out to a beach and document the environment. And what that means is that, first of all, they have to think about how they're going to produce the images, how they're going to organize the images, and then, without prompting, they have to go and find images. Now, for us, it's a normal thing, but learning the aesthetic, learning the different ways in which we can appreciate an environment. I bring that to mind because one of our students actually went on to study the sciences, and what he was able to do was to take his love of film and take his love of photography and bring a whole new different world to research. That is, he went off to the beach. He caught people who were just waking up in the morning, as we do, and going off and swimming and talking about the medicinal qualities of using the beach, which allows some other scientists now to take off, or the intrusion, some people call it, of hotels. And yet the other side you got, but down the street, the tourists were going to the local shops and tasting the wonderful fish and the cuckoo and flying fish and whatnot. And we can engage with them. So it's to capture now the practical aspects of who we are. And that's just a small example. The filmmakers, the dance work with the body and the bodily expression, how you walk in space. We talk about the guys on the block, but it's fascinating. The way they walk is an extension of what's going on in their mind. And when you think about and you talk to them, you realize there's a lot more than the stereotype that's out there. The theater, you would do well, I think, even better. Taking a theater class, because that's about and you know this, the body, the lungs, the expression, how you bring an idea, how you form a story, a character, whatever. These are all things that move you outside of the classroom.
Indeed. And so moving one's mind to that space is what's going to be very, very important. Folks, I know you feel this, everybody watching. I know you feel this. And because you feel this, you want to taste and see. And so starting this afternoon, you're going to be having a number of taster sessions, opportunities for people to really now sit for just a moment and ruminate on what's happening. So let's talk through what's happening today. Can you share with us how you're engaging with the public?
There's a wonderful part-time faculty by the name of Miss Melanie Grant, who she will be giving you a taster, and that taster class is Caribbean film. And who would have thought that we are at a stage where we can have a canon of films, a number of films being produced over a number of years that actually have a Caribbean identity, and you can have just a taste of it. Coming forward, there's a dance concert this evening at 6:30, and you will see the wonderful energy that these students bring, just from moving out to the classroom and thinking about what it is, whether it is climate change or reminiscing on the experience they had, you know, in the rum shop sometime. Well, not that they frequent rum shops, but you understand what I mean. That somehow there's a different way of thinking about it, and it helps us become more conscious of ourselves. At 5 o'clock this evening, though, I want to invite all of those who are interested in our undergraduate programs to enjoy a webinar where we break it down even more than we were able to do it in this short interview, and tell you about what qualifications you need, how you can go about getting ready to join us. At 6 o'clock then, you can ask questions about our graduate program. And this is to ensure that you become attuned to thinking about a degree or an experience in artistic expression.
Indeed. Folks, you need to register, however. So don't forget, go to cavehill.uwi.edu and register today. If you need further information, that's where you go as well. Join these sessions today. You know, it can only do you good. It can only do our society much better as well. And Mr. Millington, I want to thank you so much. Again, these are exciting moments. So these are exciting times. And I hope that Barbadians will really step up, step forward, present their best selves as we're moving to really claiming our identity in this place called the world. And this is where the Faculty of Creative Culture, Creative and Performing Arts can really help us assert best who we are. Thank you so much. Much success with the efforts this week and for the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome indeed. Andrew Millington, who is the head of the Department of Creative and Performing Arts at the UWI Cave Hill campus. Remember, go to the website, cavehill.uwi.edu, and register. We're coming back after this with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
I'm going to become quite the medical student at the end of this series of engagements with our obstetrician gynecologist, Dr. John Barker. John Barker, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Curfew.
Listen, I intend to have my little RX next to my name, something that tells everyone I am now proficient at what you guys have been teaching me. And I thank you for the education. I'm sure many Barbadians feel the same way, because these exchanges really help to widen our knowledge and scope of what's happening medically. Now today, we're looking at the surgical management of endometriosis. And just a caveat to everyone before we start, I just want to share with you that some of the slides you're going to see could be a little bit graphic. So if you're a little bit sensitive to the subject, just bear that in mind, and we do apologize. So where do we start? Dr. Barker, teach me.
Right. Now, endometriosis occurs in about 2 to 3 out of 10 women. Most of the time, it takes about 5 to 7 years to get accurately diagnosed, because there are certain conditions that overlap in relation to the disease process. And essentially what it is the cells that look like the lining of the womb inside the pelvis, but they can be anywhere in the body. And the problem is that every month when you menstruate, you get this bleeding in your tummy, and as a result, you get scarring and scar tissue. And this is what causes the pain, the chronic pelvic pain, and this is what causes infertility. And some of the times, because the patient is in pain all the time, this causes a lot of psychological issues, because sometimes people don't believe that they actually could be in that amount of pain. And this is where the problem comes, because then people think that they're not truthful. Sometimes they miss a lot of work and stuff. So there is a significant economic fallout in relation to people having this disorder or disease.
When one thinks of pelvic pain, I can see a lady doubling over because it's right in the middle, and you hinge over right away just to cushion yourself against the pain. So how do we deal with all of these? I understand the psychological impact, because the pain makes you feel less, it makes you worry, it makes you concerned, it just diminishes your capacity. And so we want to move people back to a full capacity. So how do we manage this?
Right. So essentially, how we diagnose it is either by ultrasound if you have a ovarian cyst, which is called endometrioma. So sometimes you can get that in terms of imaging modality. Sometimes you can do a MRI as well, and this can show like different levels of endometriosis, either deposits in the pelvis, or sometimes it can show a bowel involvement. But the gold standard is by diagnosis by laparoscopic surgery or keyhole surgery. So once we do the keyhole surgery, we are able to differentiate the 3 types of endometriosis. The first type is peritoneal disease, and essentially this is the covering of all the organs in the body, more so the pelvic organs. So you can get from red dots to dark dark spots, which you can see in the picture on the left. You just see a fine dot in the middle. That's peritoneal endometriosis. And on the picture on your right, you can see like it's pale, but then you see like these blotches, like these red blotches. So that's the endometriosis. So essentially what we then have to do is to excise these. There are 2 modalities of thought whereby you can apply heat, which is called ablation, or excise. So usually I excise, because once we excise, we know all the disease has gone. And if the actual lining, the peritoneum is on vital structures, we would then dissect it off. So the one on the left shows the peritoneum that we're actually pulling out, and the one on the right, that shows the excision. So you can see the edge of the peritoneum, and then you see like these tubular structures going down. So those are the vessels that actually give blood to the leg. So they're vital structures. And then there's a tube from the kidney to your bladder, which is the ureter. So you can't burn these deposits. You actually have to excise these deposits. And usually what happens is that you get when you get the scar tissue, everything is under tension. So once you excise it, immediately postoperatively the patient will tell you that the pain is gone because everything is under tension. The other disease process would be what we call endometrioma. And essentially, this is where you have endometriosis on the ovary, and as a result, you get a cyst being formed. So the picture that you'll be seeing there will be the white structure. That's the endometrioma. Unfortunately, this patient had the endometrioma, but also to a lot of the involvement of the fallopian tube. So you can see everything going into the middle. Now, that's the endometrioma. So that treatment is by cystectomy, which is essentially removing the cyst. So if you think of it as an orange and you have the orange and the actual orange itself is the cyst. So essentially what we do is peel back the orange skin and then take the orange out. So that's a cystectomy. So you actually take the actual cyst out. And then usually we will either suture or actually leave the ovary. The ovary will come back together again, and that is the treatment for the endometrioma. Now, in the last set of, in the terms of the disease, will be deep infiltrating endometriosis. So this is where you have either involvement of the bowel or the actual bladder and different structures. This is the most complex type of endometriosis because the surgeries are about 4 to 5 hours, could be longer. And essentially what we try to do is to restore normal anatomy. So one of the pictures that you would have seen will be a normal pelvis, whereby you can see all the different structures in the pelvis. But in the deep infiltrating type, this is where everything is meshed together. Back in the days, they used to call this a frozen pelvis, and most of the time it wasn't operated on. So you cannot see anything in relation to pelvic structures for the female. And this subset of patient will be in chronic pain all the time. Until they get surgery, no amount of medication can treat this because at the end of the day, everything is under tension. Ladies' fertility would be impaired as well too because everything would be meshed together. As you see the picture on the right, that involves both uterus, bowel, all her fallopian tubes, all of her ovaries are all stuck together. This surgery actually took about 4 hours to actually dissect out everything properly and to actually check her tubes just to make sure that they were patent following the surgery.
So in other words, surgery can help in this instance.
Yes,
in the instance where you talked about the orange, you used the analogy of the orange. Is it therefore, when you're taking it out, is it a hard lump of something?
No, it's fluid filled.
It's just fluid?
It's fluid filled. So depending, sometimes you can get the whole cyst. So it's like a balloon. So imagine if you put water in a balloon, that is the cyst. So essentially, if and then there's a covering over the balloon. So what we have to do is remove the covering and then take the cyst out. Sometimes the cyst might rupture, which is fine if we don't think it's malignant. And then what we can do is actually, because if you imagine the balloon, sometimes it can be stuck onto the outer covering. So if that is so, you may actually have to strip it off or all of it off. So that takes longer than the actual removing of the whole thing together.
Yeah, I can imagine. And when you say excision, because what I saw there was this thing, it looked as if it was peeling skin off. Am I reading it correctly as I see it?
Right. So essentially, if you got dry skin on and you actually pull off your dry skin, that's exactly what it is, but it's more meticulous. So the issue with the dissection is that it takes long depending on what structures it's over because you don't want to injure anything, and that is what takes the time. And the actual average procedure would be 2.5 hours depending on how much lining you actually have to remove.
And you'll be setting the lady to sleep while that happens, right? She's not, is there some local anesthetic?
No, you will not tell. You will not tell on the general understand. Yeah.
But the good news is that as you've said in your talking to us, you know, there's some instances once that procedure is complete, she immediately feels relief, which is what
Yes.
we're aiming towards.
Yes. Actually, all the patients who we had operated on immediately postoperatively, you will have your pain based on the incisions, but the actual internal pain, the pulling and the sharp pain, usually that is completely gone.
What's
substantially.
What's the long term now? Because does it grow back? Does it happen again? Do I have to come? Will she have to come back at some
Right.
point?
In relation to that's a good question. So, in relation to post surgery, usually if the patient doesn't want to get pregnant, we will put them on hormones. The reason is that if we remove it and we put you on the hormones, it will prevent it from coming back. Versus you having disease and then giving you hormones to try and quell it. So it's completely different thinking.
Right.
So once we do that, even if pain comes back, then it is not as bad as how it was before. In relation to repeating the procedure, usually about 10 up to nearly 10%, you may have to go back in within 4 to 5 years. But the majority of people actually have a normalcy in their actual life after the surgery, because the problem is that when you are accustomed to pain all the time, you then psychologically that's normal for you. So pain is normal for you. So the aspect of not having pain is a new concept because pain is normal for them. So what we try to do is get psychological support, then you try to then get back your life, because it's been years that you basically have been miserable with pain.
So ladies, there's surgical management of endometriosis, and the absence of pain does not mean that something's wrong. It just means that something went right following that surgical intervention indeed. And so Dr. Barker, as always, thank you so much. Learning a whole lot, and I trust the ladies now take the information and act on what they know. And in knowing so, you will see the relief that we're talking about. The possibilities are truly endless. Dr. Barker, thank you as always for joining us on Morning Barbados. You're welcome. You're welcome. He's our obstetrician gynecologist. Dr. John Barker is his name. There is surgical management of endometriosis. Consult today. We'll take a break and we're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So what's happening in the news? We get the answers now from Shane Seeley.
Yes, Pearson, here's your headline news for this Wednesday, February the 16th. We want to be a part of the post-COVID-19 economic recovery of Barbados. That's the appeal this morning from entertainment stakeholders in Barbados, following a call for clarity on their operations now that the curfew has been discontinued. Up to yesterday, promoters were still being told to close their doors at midnight. However, CBC understands this is no longer the case, and allowances for opening have been granted up until 3 in the morning. The Chief Executive Officer of TicketPal and Operations Manager for Halo Ultra Lounge, Orlando Newton, says there still need to address some other issues relating to opening hours for entertainment venues.
Every curfew have been removed, and our understanding, stand corrected, was that the entertainment industry closure of events was subject to the protocol. So that was the issue that we were, since then we have been told, we have received notice that is now 3 a.m. But we're still waiting to see if that will be changed to a 24-hour operation. We already know that we are subject to the permits for noise, which is issued by the police, which depends on the areas that of operation, which is quite normal.
The promoter went on to say that the entertainment industry has proven its worth to the local economy, and he believes they have shown that they can follow the protocols to keep everyone safe.
And we believe that it's about time that we actually understand that this is something that we are going to have to live with, and how we're going to live with it. We think in the entertainment industry that we have been preparing with this for the last 2 years, and we have shown in step 1 that we are ready and able and capable, and we are ready to move into step 2 and 3. But we must know what is step 4, which is the Cropover season, the festival season, and if it is going to happen, because it is going to impact the quality of what we are able to produce to allow the tourists in order to return to Barbados during this delicate summer season.
In other news, COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 3 more Barbadians. 2 of them, a 75-year-old unvaccinated man and an 84-year-old fully vaccinated male, died on Monday. Additionally, a 67-year-old woman succumbed to the virus yesterday. She was unvaccinated. They all passed away while at the Harrison Point isolation facility. The number of deaths recorded from COVID-19 here in Barbados now stands at 303. Meanwhile, the Best Dos Santos Public Health Laboratory has conducted 1,844 tests and recorded 415 new COVID-19 cases on Monday. The positives consisted of 64 youngsters under 18 years of age. There were 138 people in isolation facilities, while 5,077 were in home isolation. Under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of fully vaccinated people now stands at 148,474. We hear this morning that face-to-face classes will resume here in Barbados at schools come Monday. Education Minister Kay McConney made the announcement during a media briefing last evening after another week of intense talk with the education stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and the unions. In explaining the rationale for the decision, the Education Minister said the ministry is mindful some students will be taking external examinations, including CSEC and CAPE, and their counterparts in the region have already resumed face-to-face classes. She said some students must also get going on subjects which require practical work submissions to demonstrate their competence.
They will be competing with peers from around the world who will be seeking to land spots in universities and colleges and special schools and jobs for the future. They must be ready. And can we afford to hold them back any longer than the years they have already lost in learning gains through no fault of their own or ours? We have to rebalance our priorities, Barbados, now, if this country is to survive and thrive. For these reasons, among others, the ministry has determined that schools will reopen in a phased manner starting February 21st.
And for her part now, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw, says Phase 1 will target students identified as most vulnerable. That is, those in nursery, reception, Infants A and Infants B, Class 4 students as well, 1st, 4th, 5th and 6th formers, and children with special needs. In Phase 2 will be Classes 1, 2 and 3, and 2nd and 3rd forms. The ministry will allow for some flexibility in the initial stages so long as students have at least 5 days of face-to-face classes, and that's within a 2-week period. Having heard the concerns of the teachers' unions, teachers worried about a return of face-to-face classes have been given an additional week to adjust. As for the safety requirements, Dr. Archer Bradshaw says students should be 3 feet apart at all times and must wear masks, although mask breaks will be allowed. Sanitization stations are also a requirement, and random testing will be conducted for students and staff from the nursery to secondary levels.
The random testing will not occur during the first week or the second week. We are awaiting the swabs, and as soon as we receive the swabs and training has taken place, the random testing will occur. For students, we require parental consent, and the parental consent forms will be made available.
And just a reminder to you sports fans, the West Indies will be doing battle against India in the first of 3 T20 internationals at Kolkata in India. Of course, you can catch up with that action on MCTV's 310, that's Sports Max, from 10 this morning. I'm Shane Seeley, and that has been your headline news. It's back to you, Pearson.
Thank you, Shane. I also have a quick reminder to those of you to listen to 94.7, the best 24/7, as day 2 of that 4-day match Barbados versus Jamaica continues from Kensington Oval. Live coverage from 9:45 on radio on 94.7, the best 24/7. A break, and when we come back, our good decision of the day.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time for us to share with you our good decision of today. Remember, all week long we are sharing with you some habits for the ultra successful, which is you. And today we are talking about setting daily goals, daily goal setting. Most people set some future goals, but don't set goals on a daily basis. This is why so many people fail to achieve their most worthwhile goals. Now, if you want to make your goals a reality, you have to set 1 to 3 daily goals that, if achieved, lead to significant progress towards achieving your bigger picture goals. Most people don't fully know what they want to achieve on a daily basis. Yeah, right? And therefore make very slow progress on their goals. Their daily actions are not focused enough or are not in line with their future goals. And therefore they take way longer to achieve them, if at all, compared with high performers. So start today making some daily goals and achieve those goals day by day. Little successes along the way lead to ultra successful people like you or me. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll hear what's happening in St. Lucie this month as part of the Spirit of the Nation National Initiative.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Now, February is the month dedicated to the parish of St. Lucie. Not my fault. Don't accuse me because I'm from St. Lucie. But for real, it is indeed with the Community Independence Secretariat. Every month there's a chance for the parish independence committees to do things in their communities. So February, St. Lucie. We're joined by the chairman of the St. Lucie Parish Independence Committee, Anderson Rollock. Anderson, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning to the residents of St. Lucie.
Good man. What a year you guys have had, man. You've won almost everything.
Yes, last year was indeed a successful year for the parish of St. Lucie. In spite of everything that would have happened, we are indeed grateful for the achievements that we would have made.
And a lot of those achievements would have required the support of the people of St. Lucie. And so once again, you're back to seek their support. So let's talk about how this month St. Lucie will be marking its parish month. What's the plan?
Yes, well, just one small correction. January actually was St. Lucie's parish month. This month is actually St. Peter's. But the executive would have been expired after their 2-year tenure. So a lot of committees would have gone through their interview processes, and new committees would have been put in place to carry out the functions of the community independence celebrations for the next 2 years. So now that the majority of the committees are in place, and I want to issue a rallying cry to members across Barbados who have an interest in volunteerism to come forward and give your support, give up yourself to the community independence and the parish independence committees for the next 2 years.
So have you completed your tour of duty, so to speak?
Well, not completed. I'm now in a new phase of it. I'm back again. So,
okay.
Yes, so the program will officially start sometime this month, where all the communities and the committees will go through their orientations and get the mandate from the Secretariat on what we need to do, what our jobs will be going forward.
Was it difficult getting people to volunteer to serve in this way?
I wouldn't say so. A bit of both, but especially with the challenges for the past 2 years with COVID, persons will be hesitant, to come forward, and where things would have changed in terms of, like right now, we have the use of technology. I'm in the comfort of my home speaking to you, just to be safe. And
Yes.
previously, we would make the trek to CBC to be in studio. So I guess with the use of technology and the various other tools out there, persons can feel a bit more relaxed in terms of coming forward and giving up their service. They don't have to be out there every day physically, but there are other aspects that they can be involved in from behind the scenes. So persons have been stressed, but we still need one or two more to get the full slate across this country going.
You've been a part of this program for a little while. Give us a sense of when one volunteers, what is expected of one to do to make it a successful effort?
Well, the key word is volunteer. And if you know you're giving up yourself to volunteer, like no one didn't call you, you give up yourself. So therefore, if you're coming forward to do such, you need to give it 110%. And if you put your hands to the plow, you need to push and make sure you do the work. And a chairperson or any person on the committee is only as good as their team, and can have your team around you to really support you and believe in the objective that you want to achieve going forward. That makes the job a whole lot easier.
What do you think are some of the plans, though, that St. Lucie has? I'm curious, and I know you might want to keep a little bit close to your chests, but give us a sense of what you guys are talking about already as you forge forward towards attaining and retaining the spirit of the nation, the most outstanding parish ambassadors for 2022.
Yes, obviously for some, that was indeed a great achievement. I think the fifth time for this parish, and apart from retaining and repeating, one thing that, for me personally, that I would like to see and to trans my members would be for a greater community togetherness, greater community participation. To have St. Lucie really being that one family, one community, one developing parish. And obviously we need to, with the good news that schools are restarting, need to get back into these schools, get our young people involved, just get more volunteerism at heart where persons are concerned, to have a sense of pride, a sense of Barbadianism, a sense of community, involvement. All the way keeping St. Lucie where she belongs, at the top of the map, bringing everyone in this parish along step by step.
Okay, well, that's fantastic work that you're doing there, and I really hope that all of it truly comes to fruition. But our beautiful parish is so vast. I mean, we crown the island at the top, from coast to coast. And so being able to get out there and to get into every road, every community, and I know technology aids, but technology also hinders, because sometimes face-to-face and that one-on-one interaction is so critical. How are you able to mobilize so that you almost touch everywhere in St. Lucie?
Well, apart from the executive, we have various subcommittees. We have a parish project subcommittee, a public relations subcommittee, a parish activities and fundraising subcommittees. So each little committee is tasked with a certain response to their job. And we have our social media pages going. They're very interactive. They're very active. And if there's an activity coming up, or we just need to go into various areas to sensitize the residents as to who we are, what our plans are, what we are doing, we send that out there, and then we would break up into small teams going around district by district, because an executive is about 10 members. Then you have your subcommittees. So we were split up into groups, and one person would take the eastern side, the western side, the central areas, let residents know who we are, what we are doing, and to get that community buy-in. And it also helps being pretty consistent over the years of this program, that persons can look at the St. Lucie Parish Independence Committee and say, this is something that we can support, this is something that we can buy into and be involved in, because the proof is in the pudding. In terms of the work and the commitment that we would have done over the years.
Yeah, there's a beautiful little spot called Hope Road, St. Lucie. Don't forget, Hope Road, St. Lucie.
Yes.
You know, that's where I'm from. And so we want to encourage you and the team to continue doing well what you already do. I'm looking forward to the unfurling of more of your activities, and I'm sure that when you do, you'll remember us to come. Let's talk about it, so that everyone gets to know the brilliance of what's happening in St. Lucie as well. Anderson Rollock, Chair of the committee, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Much success with the
Thank you
program.
for having me.
You're welcome.
All right,
You're
have a
welcome
good day.
indeed. Fellow St. Lucie man there, Anderson Rollock, the chairman of the St. Lucie Parish Independence Committee. Though last month was their month, there's still a lot to happen. If you want to volunteer, contact your Parish Independence Committee as you know it, or contact the Community Independence Celebration Secretariat. They're located in the Sky Mall building. We'll take a break here, and when we come back, we'll start to look at aging and thriving in BIM. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
25 and a half after 7 o'clock now. Let's start this new series, Aging and Thriving in BIM. Dr. Lana Husbands, who is a gerontologist, will join us to share in these sessions. Good morning to you, Dr. Husbands.
Good morning, Pearson. I'm so happy to be here.
Good to have you indeed. Now, it's a privilege to age. I hope that young people understand that, you know, it's all well and good to feel young and be young, but there comes a time once you live and once you grow, you too will become quite old. And so let's look at some of the highlights of the challenges and the joys of aging in Barbados. This is quite an aging society, and already the statistics indicate that we will have one of the largest population of older people anywhere in the world, and our older people also require to be aging with dignity. And so in this series we'll be looking at the ways in which we as a wider society can assist in making the time of their life the time of their life. And so it's the privilege that we're talking about, and our ability to be able to help them live out their best selves. And at this time, the privilege of aging is truly a blessing from God. So Dr. Husbands, let's look at that now. For those who may have missed our first interaction, remind people of what the study of gerontology is and why this aging and thriving in BIM is something that we really need to start focusing on.
Well, Pearson, gerontology is the study of the aging process, but not just the biologic getting older day by day. It is actually the study of all that concerns aging: social, environmental, housing, our emotions, our attitudes, and caregivers. We can't forget them, and the medical facility as well.
So over the series, that's what we'll be looking at it in its breadth, all the different aspects as it relates to caring for our elderly. Today, though, we want to look at communicating with older persons. And when you have that title, what do you see to be the challenges of communication there with people who are older than ourselves?
I think mainly, and we'll get to that a bit, but mainly it's the lack of understanding of what the aging process does to a person. So this is someone, as you said, we've all been young, but we've never been old, and neither have they. So they're getting used to the changes in their own body, what they could do before they can't do now. They may have to have someone to take care of them. So, and they would have lived in a different era, a different culture, a different way of understanding than we would have had to before. So there's a breach, there's a gap, as we call it. There seems to be a breach sometimes, and what they may want, or what they may understand as leading to their feelings or expressing their feelings, and what we may understand as in their best interest. The two may not meet.
You're quite right. And I see one of the images here, the rotary phone versus the mobile phone. You know, I was showing to my godsons on the weekend, look, this is what I used to use when I was growing up, this rotary phone. They're just little boys. Yes. And, you know, they were like, what's that? I've seen that somewhere. And for them, it was in an antique shop. Sure it is. But for me, that was part of my reality. For them, it's like, what is this dinosaur-looking thing? And so
and huge, too.
Right, and so it's difficult when the older person tries to manage in an era where the technology has changed so vastly, so quickly. You know, this cell phone, this WhatsApp call is like, what is that? What's that? How can we do this? How can I do a video call with you? You know, how do I manage this? And they become frustrated. And we ourselves also become frustrated in trying to get them to cope.
That is true. So let's just deal with what communication is first so that our audience understands. And that's the act or process. What we're doing now, for example, we're doing words, we're doing actions, we're behaving in a way to exchange our information. But we're also expressing our thoughts. You express your past, we're expressing our feelings, our ideas on something to another human being. And we also mentioned in newer methods, emails, WhatsApp. We also had letters back in the day, as you would call it. And persons would be used to it that way. So when I am communicating to you as the sender, you feed that back to me to show me that you understood the message. That is proper communication. So we are on the same page, as it were. What happens often, though, is I'm sending you a message, and somewhere along the line it's blurred, so you don't get to hear me. So I might do what? Speak more loudly. And what does that happen? You still don't get my message because you're not receiving what I've said, because you're older, because your aging process has begun. And so I'd like to remind the audience that although aging is not a disease, it does have its changes. So let's go through a few of the changes that happen in the aging process. As we said before, there's some physical for sure. So visual, hearing, mobility, memory, and the brain's ability to process information. That's affected, of course. Psychologically, it's the emotional connection, as we mentioned. There's a different style of communicating older persons would have had. They may have had more of a, what we call a dictatorial way of speaking. Do it, and it's done, and we obey, and that's it. They may not have had that interaction when it came to their younger ones, and certainly may not be to their peers because they were so busy. Socially, as we said, we have that huge or small generation gap. So let's deal with some of the responses that persons may have when they have visual or hearing loss, hearing especially. They may start to behave strangely. They may withdraw. Some may get angry. So you say, well, why are you behaving like this? Or they may start to make up things because they didn't hear us properly. Some signs of visual disturbance, if a person is squinting or they may need glasses, or they're walking uncertainly, we can tell they may be visually impaired, but we may not be able to really assess it unless we ask a question. And they may be reluctant to say. So you may have to say, Mom, do you think you need glasses? Do you think you can see me well? Or Dad, can you hear me well? Sometimes in hearing difficulties, persons may turn the television up or the radio up. We're saying, but the TV is too loud. And they think they can barely hear it, but we think it's too loud. So therefore, again, our communication is flawed. They may ask us the same thing several times. We may be familiar with that. So will you just ask me that? They may not have realized that they themselves said it, or we may have asked them something and we said, but I asked you that yesterday, I asked you that an hour ago. Did you not hear me? The worst thing to say to a person who's getting older who cannot hear you well is to say, did you not hear what I said? That again makes them feel to withdraw or maybe to confront you and get angry. They may not want to be in groups anymore because simply sounds are just too much. It's just too much going on. Or they may have a puzzled expression when we're talking to them. For those who have limited mobility, they may seem confused because, ironically, they want to get up, but they can't. And finally, when it comes, so if I were to, let's go back with the vision and the hearing. What we need to be, I think, is mindful of the changes that happen: visual, hearing, memory impairment, memory disturbance, and the way of processing our information. And so we've actually come to let's put them all together and let's get some do's and don'ts, shall we? So that we know what to do when we come from, as we're discussing this. We do want to ensure a safe environment for the person. What does that mean? Is it just because the windows are closed, the door is closed, and they're safe inside because it's COVID? No, we want to ensure that they feel safe emotionally and they feel safe psychologically. We want to ensure that we allow them to speak. Even though they may say, and we know a person for sure, they're going to say, the same as we feel we're repeating ourselves, we know older persons like to talk about the good old days over and over. Sometimes it's the same story over and over again. Let them do that. That's the way of them sharing their ideas, sharing their thoughts. And who knows, you might learn something. Let's look directly at them, give them the impression, let them know that we really care about what they're saying. But don't stare at them. If I stared at you, you'd get uncomfortable after a while. Let us use clear sentences, and more importantly, let us remember that because of vision and hearing difficulties and processing of information, we may need to speak one sentence at a time. So please come to me, please put the kettle on, let's get the dish. As tedious as it may seem, we may need to do that. Therefore, we need to be patient, but not patience with a grudge. We need to be patient with a smile. Remember, they took care of us with patience. Well, we didn't think so, but they did. They were patient with us. They smiled too. What we do not want to do now, let's go to the don'ts. We do not want to turn away when we're speaking. If I turn away when I'm speaking to you and you can't hear well, you can't process what I'm saying, you can't hear me, you can't use my words to try to mouth what I'm saying. So let's show the regard and respect for the aging process. And again, it comes to looking at them when we speak. Let's not use elder speak. And this especially for our friends in the medical community. Let's not say, hi dear, morning moms, morning dads. Some may like it, many do not. So we don't want to do that elder speak and talk down to them. We don't want to remain in the area. If they turn the radio up too loud, let's just turn it down. They may not be able to tell anyway. But let's turn it down for us and let's focus their attention on us. And again, we said, if they're not hearing well, our first response might be to raise our voice. Now, if you're not hearing well, what happens is the hearing happens at different frequency. The hearing loss does. So if we shout, all we do is become a distorted sound, a noise. And therefore, as we say in Barbados, then a noise erupts, meaning an argument. Because they didn't hear what we said, we thought they did, and they're not processing and being difficult. So the communication goes both ways, yes, but I do strongly believe it starts with first our understanding of what they're going through and then being empathetic to their cause. And then once we're empathetic, they will speak with us and they will continue to share their feelings. And then we will talk about our feelings and our ideas. We will be communicating. So I know that was brief. I know that was just really a summary, but I'm wondering if you had any queries or anything on what we spoke there, and hope that has helped someone to say, oh, maybe I should try this now.
Oh, I always have queries and questions. I waited patiently for you to finish. Because oftentimes we make people older than they actually are, sooner than they actually should. And it's for people, while engaging with your senior people in your homes, to be able to recognize their capacity level and adapt accordingly. Don't assume because a person is in their 60s, for instance, that suddenly they become decrepit and they could not function adequately. Don't make them older too soon. Just monitor as they go, and you make the adjustment as well. But also to recognize you're in this for a while, for the long term. As long as they will be alive, you will be required to do so. So patience and the consistency is what's going to be critical. But in doing so, also get your support. Get your support, because there will be times of challenge, and there will be times that you feel as if, you know what, I got left here, you know. And when that happens, to whom do you turn? Have those support systems in place as well. But above all, just make life as beautiful as you possibly can for aging society, because they did it for us while we are younger. So that level of sensitivity is going to be absolutely critical. Can't say much else than that, but we'll catch up with you next time.
Remember to smile.
Always to smile. Hard as it is sometimes to smile in the face of all of those challenges in dealing with our elderly people. So hopefully next week we'll continue the discussion on this and so much more as we begin to age and thrive while aging in BIM. Thank you so much, Dr. Hasbens. Dr. Lana Hasbens is her name. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. We'll take that break right here. When we come back, get your book handy. Yes, this book, Manager's First Aid Kit. I've got my sticky exactly where I need to be. We're going to chapter 16. Stay with us for that and a whole lot more straight ahead.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Here we are today. It is Wednesday. You know this is my favorite time of a Wednesday morning indeed, interacting with Joan Underwood, the author of the book Manager's First Aid Kit, as we continue to empower supervisors and managers and maybe you in your home to be the best and to get the best out of people. Joan, good morning to you.
Good morning and happy Wednesday.
Likewise to you. Now listen, I interacted with you on LinkedIn though, so I hope you I'm going to talk you out, Joan. It was so funny. I just started to laugh when I saw the message coming in from Joan. So we're not just interacting here on the TV screen, we're also interacting on social media as well. And as I would have said to you before, thank you for those little daily reminders that you send out. You know, it really helps to keep one focused and steadfast in achieving the things, the outcomes that we're talking about. So folks, in the book, we're down now to the section that looks at managing systems and processes. Part of that is coaching for performance. This, too, Joan, is a very big chapter. We're going to have to take some time on this. So let's talk about the benefit, first of all, and why it is important to have the skill to be able to coach for performance.
Yes, so this is the gift that keeps on giving, coaching. Because when you engage in a coaching culture, obviously the individual being coached benefits because you're helping them to maximize their potential. Mm-hmm. The supervisor or manager who is doing the coaching will also benefit because you're going to enable your people to be optimally productive. You're going to improve their efficiency as well as their effectiveness. then of course your department benefits, because if you have all high performing people in your department compared to when only some of your team is stepping up to the plate, obviously your department is going to be better off. And think about the organization that's made up of departments where everyone is being creative, is problem solving, is maximizing their potential. The entire organization will be better off. And for an additional layer, your clients or customers will benefit as people are performing at a higher level. So that's why I think about performance coaching as the gift that keeps on giving.
Indeed. But there's a difference between coaching and training. And sometimes that's where we muddy the whole water. So what's the difference between coaching and training?
Okay, so first off, to establish that there's value both in training and in coaching. The difference with coaching as compared to training is that you are helping people to come up with their own solutions, and you're securing a commitment from them to implement those solutions. So if, for example, you send out a notice, you tell your people we're going to have a training program, hopefully you would have established an objective for your training program based on a needs assessment. So you know what the people need, and you're going to bring in someone who's a subject matter expert. So they're what I refer to as the sage on the stage. They're the wise person taking the dominant role to impart the knowledge. So a trainer is giving to the participants. That's training. Contrast it now with coaching. What we do as coaches, we're not the sage on the stage. We're the guide on the side. We come alongside the individual and we help them to learn. We help them to be creative, to come up with breakthrough solutions, and then we support them in implementing those decisions. So in training, I may be using lectures, I'm going to be teaching, whereas with coaching, I'm going to be asking questions to get you to think more deeply and to come up with your own solutions. And so you're going to have more skin in the game because it's your idea that you're implementing as opposed to what I trained you to do.
That's important. And all along, folks, as we keep saying to you, it requires that relationship. You must build the relationship, build that relationship. And that must include trust so that we can have that. And you went on in the chapter to talk about some of the primary needs to be met by coaching, but you also reminded us what coaching is not. Coaching is not the same as counseling, you say. You say coaching is definitely not counseling. It is not mentoring. It is not training. It is not the same as consulting. And sometimes as managers, that's what we do. You know, I'll come talk to you and, you know, I'll ask you and I'll consult with you. And I figured at the end of it all that we've had that exchange and therefore you now understand what is required. So why do we get it so wrong?
Well, it's understandable because all of the things that you've listed, even though they're not the same as coaching, they do help people. So there's a place for counseling, there's a place for mentoring, there's a place for consultants. Coaching is different. Coaching is about the empowerment. It's about drawing out what persons already have within them. So as a coach, I choose to believe that all my coaching clients have what they need in terms of capability. It's my job to bring it to the surface and to support them, because sometimes they don't even believe they have it. I may be the one believing where they're not there yet. So I need to help them to get there. With mentoring now, and mentoring is very important. What happens with mentoring is that you identify someone who has prior experience in the particular area, and you look to them for advice. So they will give advice based on their own experience in your given field or whatever the area of interest is. That's mentoring. All right? Advice giving. Now, in terms of a consultant, when a firm or a government or whatever, a client brings me in as a consultant, they've hired because they think I have the answers. So they expect me to come to the table to be able to bring solutions to the table. With coaching, remember, you're helping the individual being coached to come up with their own solutions. So if I, as a consultant, I come into a firm and I say, okay, we've analyzed the problem, here's what you need to do. And if it doesn't work, they're going to be looking sideways at me and say, listen, we paid you all this money and what you tell us to do didn't work.
Yes.
Whereas in the coaching conversation, when the person comes up with their own solution and they're implementing it and they hit a bit of a stumbling block, they're going to go back into creative mode because they have skin in the game. They want their idea to work, as opposed to say, well, she didn't know what she was telling me to do, so this just doesn't work. And they're done.
You talked about there are 4 needs that are to met by coaching. I love them all. You talked about coaching for skills acquisition, coaching for performance improvement, coaching for career development, coaching for change. And each of these is distinctly different. And so that's what we need to be able to focus on next time, if you don't mind, Joan. I tell you, this chapter is a biggie. And I want to painstakingly do so because I see my own skin in this game, in this chapter. This is going to help me too. And so hearing from you how we approach the whole subject of coaching and getting the best out of the solutions developed by the team. And you know my example, it will be given to you before. You know, that is why, for me, this is such an important chapter to explore. And I hope that people feel the same way as I do about why it's so critical to get it right. And so we'll pick it up from that point next week. Look at that, people are already talking. It takes nothing to get them going with Joan. Good morning to you, my smiling Joan, my darling. How are you? Such great advice we received from you. Thank you. That's from Patricia Ben. So people love you. Folks, you ought to also love the book. The book is available at Days Bookstore. And I'm telling you, the calls I received, Joan, about where, when again, where can I go? And I send them all to Days Bookstore. Days Bookstore is available there. It's also available online at utdsinc.com. It's also available on Amazon. It's a great book to have. So much you can learn. You can too eventually become the sage on the stage. And also the guide by the side when you get this copy of this book. Joan, as always, thank you. We'll pick it up next week because we have to become better at coaching for performance as leaders of our organizations. Looking forward to that.
All right, see you then. Bye.
See you then, indeed. See you then. We've only just begun, folks. And so we shall continue, if it be God's will, next week, looking at that particular chapter. It's chapter 16 in the book. So get your copy today. Have it handy for next week, while together we shall learn. But begin to read it. Begin to read it. Delve into it. We'll take that break here. When we come back, there's someone who has received an award. We'll introduce you to her in just a moment.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It has truly been a rewarding journey, her life that is thus far. And she's that far away. She's in Pittsburgh. She's received the HR award there in Pittsburgh. And we want to catch up with her to see what's been going on since we last spoke. Sonia Lane Gartside, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Hi. Good morning, Barbados.
Great to see you yet again. And what a journey, a true life. You are a master trainer, diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, and a leadership coach as well. You would have heard, did you hear our last session?
Well, you know, Joanna and I are really great friends and peer coaches to each other. So yes, I was smiling throughout it. Yeah.
And that's what it's about, isn't it? I mean, here we are, we're developing people, we're developing potential, we're developing teams that are high performance. And as a country, it really redounds to everyone's benefit when all of us really are, I was going to say shouting at the best, at the highest level, but you know how we say it in Barbados. But you get the idea. We're all really outperforming each other and ourselves.
I know.
And so here it is, though. So how has it been for you, though, having received this big award, the Pittsburgh HR Award, and what have you been up to?
Yeah, so since I think the last time I received the award, I'd also written my book, Workplace Anxiety, How to Refuel and Re-engage. And so since then, I've been working with lots of organizations, some global organizations, to talk about how do you ensure that employees, generally people think it's the stressors in their life that are causing the anxiety. And in reality, it's because you're not actively and intentionally creating and building a meaningful work life. And so I've been working with global firms on that. And then I've also been working with leadership teams, the C-suite teams, to ensure that they understand how to create an environment in which people can thrive and be engaged. So generally helping them to understand that there's a difference between steering the fleet and driving the boat, meaning there's a difference between leading an organization or a business line and running a team. So if you're upgrading to that level of leadership, what it's like. So that's what I've been busy doing.
There's some serious psychological shifts that you're asking us to take. Because how first of all, the first one you mentioned, how does one put aside one's own challenges and instead shifts one focus to achieving? It's difficult in most instances.
Yes. And generally what I say to business people in organizations all the time, the old days where you came to work and you allowed other people to drive your career, which would be HR, your leader, those days are gone, right? You are 100% responsible for your career. It is just company enabled. So the company provides resources, support, but you are in charge of driving your career. And for some people, that's exciting. And for some others, it's anxious, anxiety inducing. And so what I want to say to people is, I want you to be in the former, which is exciting because we all know that, well, the emotion is the same. It's just how we label it. And so that's the mindset that most organizations are helping their employees to understand, that if you want to be engaged, you know you best. So you're the one that needs to craft your career, your job, to ensure that it's meaningful and joyful to you.
That requires, though, my employer to be mature enough to allow me to have that engagement, a level of engagement. Because if I can't have that relationship, we're going to have friction. I want to, and you're saying to me, I have to. And then that's where the problem is.
So you see why I spend the other half of my life talking to leaders. I mean, obviously I do, it's global now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but, DEI is the soil upon which everything is inputted. But yes, that's why I have to explain, I have to work so much with leaders to help them understand that there's a difference between just running a team and running a business. And when you're a leader, you have to, this is not just a high status job that makes you feel important. There is some work that you need to be doing in there. And that's a mindset shift, because people tend to think of leadership as, oh, I have a big job and I'm being paid lots of money, and don't want to do the work, which is create that environment where people can thrive, where people, that psychological safety to ensure that people can tell you what they want, the emotional agility to hear it, don't get defensive, and then work with the person and the team to help figure out, well, how can we craft this job that is a win-win? it benefits the organization, and it also ensures that you are doing what you do best. And as you say, we're not forcing you into a box.
Yeah, that's a serious cultural shift, though, because we've grown up in a space that says you're in charge, the buck stops with you, and therefore you tell them what to do. It's almost like what we call the plantation mentality, where you use the whip and whip them in line and they'll fall in line. But that's not the way it works today. You're not necessarily getting the best out of those because they're not, as Joan would love to tell us, they're not just units of production. There are people.
Yes.
They're people with possibilities, and they cannot realize those possibilities if they feel constricted by your nonsense. I'll use that word deliberately.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
I say listen to Joan. She knows what she's saying. But it's so important. And you know that you've just hit a nail on the head, Pearson, because I deal with lots of international companies and global firms, and they understand that in today's world, this is the only way to go forward. If not, what you get in today's uncertainty, in the ambiguity, is your people retreating into safety instead of aggressively going after growth and opportunities. Yeah. And that just leads me to another point, which is Barbados has so much talent. When you get on the world stage and then you look back at Barbados and you think, my goodness, there is so much talent being stifled here by leaders who are not doing their job. It's absolutely outrageous. And that's sometimes what I say to people all the time. Don't just look at Barbados. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee, if you're a manager, whatever career, don't just look at Barbados, because there's a world out there that is really hungry for your skills and your talent. So we need to think wider and not just for Barbados.
Girl, you got me feeling applying for jobs somewhere else. You know,
yes!
You're right. The globe now truly is opened up to us, and the possibilities are truly endless. But you know, when you stop to think of it, you know, there are people who are in leadership positions who think for just a moment, you know, that if I invest in you, Sonia, you're going to leave me, and I've just wasted my investment. But if we look at it a little differently, if I invest in you, Sonia, maybe you reinvest in me, and together we grow.
Yeah.
So it's a shift.
It is a shift, and really and truly, you should not be holding on to someone forever. We're supposed to grow and develop and move on, and we have a pipeline that we're building that comes up. So you want, if someone is there with you for 3 years, you want the best 3 years that they have to give you. And when they move on, because you've invested in them, you've established a relationship. It wasn't transactional. As you say, it's an investment. And you may need to call on them for collaboration in the future wherever they land. And that's one of the things that I think with global organizations that they do so well, is the collaboration between people, between countries, in different networks, to really emphasize how to get the best for your organization. And that's something that we really need to talk about here, because as a country, we are small, so we really need that power of community to really make a difference in our economy. Yeah.
Totally agree. You have a convert in me. Sonia Lane Garside, thank you as always for your sage information. Thank you so much for your insight, and congratulations on all you're doing globally, representing this 246 as well as you do, and making a big difference to so many others. We're looking forward to your return and your influence in how we do business here in Barbados as well.
Oh, I'm actually here in Barbados doing Disrupt HR Caribbean next week. So yeah, if you want to see me, come out then and go to Disrupt HR Caribbean.
You got me good. Thank you so much. Have a good morning as always. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
And thank you to everyone for joining us today. We are out of time. The team thanks you. We look forward to see you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.